I'm Eddie,
I'm Taku.
and today we're going to be talking about Shin Evangelion, specifically the most recent or final
The fandom.
entry in the series.
Yeah. I've been waiting for this for 8 years.
Yeah, I think a lot of us have, and I feel bad for the people who are potentially watching this early because it seems like you might be waiting a little while longer to see it since it's not available in the States yet.
We'll be soon for sure.
Yeah. I mean, thankfully, we're both in Tokyo. We were able to go check it out on opening day, and you've seen it a few times now at this point, right?
4 times.
Crazy. Dedicated. I want to say crazy. Dedicated.
No. There is a reason behind this.
Oh,
Well, yes, you can define it as dedicated, but it was like, well, where should I start, man? Like this.
it's a dense movie, right?
It's-
Like there's a lot to take in.
It's not only that. It's more personal. I started watching Ava when I was a college student. 25 years ago, and I was really hooked on it. I was really into it, and at the same time it was a trauma movie. How it ended was horrible, and it I don't know how people define the script, but Asuka says you are disgusting, and I felt like Asuka was saying that to me.
For End of Evangelion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The first movie.
Yeah.
Well, technically the second, but
Actually, the
new
movie.
new series, old series.
Yeah.
It's like for Eva, it's like Old Testament, New Testament.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And I was shocked, and I was stuck with the experience, and for me, this movie was searching for salvation almost after the traumatic experience I had with the old Evangelion.
That's a really interesting way to put it.
So, the first day I watched, I ended up being able to do nothing, like anything.
I remember talking to you afterwards to clarify a couple of things.
Yeah,
and you seemed pretty like taken aback by everything.
Yeah,
guess,
I tried to stay normal as much as possible, but I ended up sleeping early because it ended exactly how I wanted to end.
Yeah.
It was salvation, but I was like really confused, and I ended up being in bed. And next day I went to watch it again, and was still confused. And by the third time, fourth time, I realized. I started to ask myself, I got exactly what I needed, but is this what I really needed?
So you're talking about like, from your perspective on that, is it like the finality of it is kind of what's making you feel like, is that what I really needed? Is that kind of what the issue was?
Did I want what I wanted?
Yeah.
I got exactly what I wanted, but I started to question myself.
Yeah.
Is that what I really wanted? That's how it is. I'm like Shinji. All the pilots, Eva pilots, are stuck with Eva. We call it Eva no Jibaku. It's like
The curse.
the curse. Yeah. I was cursed, and I guess I was expecting salvation. I was expecting me to be able to get rid of the curse, and also grow up. Like it's for me, like all the script, what character says is very linked to myself. So and I realized I couldn't grow up.
So I like in this situation, is it like which character would you say that you relate to the most in this kind of situation?
It's basically almost everyone, other than Mari. Mari's like, she is like the holy person.
Yeah.
Well, I put myself as Shinji, Gendo, Misato, Asuka, and well, maybe not Rei, but it really overlaps with my life.
Yeah, there's a lot of different elements from each character. Yeah.
Yeah, and also this movie is like very like this animation is like compared to other animation or other anime, it's so linked to director.
Yeah.
I know. So and it's very similar to musicians making music.
So there's like a personal feeling and like message that's kind of coming out.
Yeah, it's. I mean, there are a lot of like anime that has messages, but this is really direct from Ano. And this movie is about Ano also growing up.
Yeah.
And Ano being able to create something other than Evangelion.
Yeah, because that was like, we just watched the Professional special about him, and at one point in it, he's talking about how like everything he made, it was just Evangelion, and so it's like him trying to get it out of his system in a way. You know, like I needed to finish it more or less.
Yeah, the reason why he made it, he made the new series was because, first of all, he was stuck with Eva too.
Yeah,
he was cursed with Eva, and he felt responsible for the what's happening in the anime industry. After Eva, so Eva was back in the day. It was a show at 6:30ish, like evening time, and it didn't blow up in the beginning. But after they started doing anime at late night, they did a rerun at late night. And a lot of people started watching. That's when I started watching.
Gotcha.
And after that, anime industry realized that, okay, wow, it works at creating anime at midnight. And that's why they, and there were so many animes. And there were a lot of animes like Eva at the same time, too.
Yeah.
It ended up, like, industry creating a lot of, like, Eva copies or, like, also, they started to make mass-produced anime, and that created the anime industries. You know how animators are.
They're like not paid the best right now,
and they're in a very hard situation.
Yeah.
So Ano also felt responsible, although it's not his fault. He made it the trend because of that. So he really wanted to redo it. He really wanted to rebuild it and redo it, and it was for himself, and it was also for people who had traumatic experience, and it was for the anime industry. So this is not just a simple anime creation.
It's so much heavier than that.
It portrays the whole Japanese anime industry.
Yeah.
So there's so much thing I had to digest from that.
Yeah. Well, before we get back into that, because I do want to talk about The Professional a little bit more, I do want to talk about the movie a little bit.
Professionally mean the documentary?
The documentary about him. Because there was some really interesting stuff that it relates to the movie directly, but was discussed in that I like to touch on. But in regards to the movie itself, so, you know, for you, your situation walking out at the end of the movie was kind of like you got what you wanted, but was it what you really wanted? And for me personally, I felt like it was like saying goodbye to old friends is what it felt like to me, like a permanent goodbye to old friends, not like a happy goodbye, like kind of like a am I ever going to see you again kind of situation type of thing. But I also like felt kind of a joy when I finished it because the way that the movie ends like was unexpectedly positive. Like I expected a positive ending based on the end of the third movie, but like this was even more than I was expecting. It was kind of like almost to the point where like, is this really Ano creating this? Like it felt like that positive of an ending. So for me, like the ending of it was really impactful as far as like the whole framing of it and the sequence of it. And obviously there were other parts of the movie that were really strong and a lot of really important moments. For you, was there like a moment in the movie that you felt was like more impactful to you personally than anything else?
I mean, this whole series was about Ano, the director, and I really wanted him to graduate from Eva and let himself free.
Yeah.
And there's no way we can avoid spoilers
Yeah,
for
yeah.
this.
Well, I'm gonna have a spoiler warning at the beginning
Yeah.
of the video when I edit it. So,
And how it ended was like there's so many what's the word symbolisms and metaphors, and I mean there's like symbolism and metaphors from like Bible for the mysteries they have,
yeah,
and also the symbolisms about himself, what's surrounding him,
yeah,
and like Shinji having another life without Eva is exactly it symbolizes Anno being to create something else in Eva.
yeah,
So I was very happy, and at the same time, I mean that's how I watched it from the start, because I knew, like I've been checking a lot about himself. I mean he had depression,
yeah,
because of Eva, and and I wanted Shinji to be able to, like the old movie, he just couldn't do anything.
yeah,
He like literally didn't do anything. He just wrote on Eva, and he didn't write on it by himself. Technically, Eva, which is his mom,
yeah.
made
She
him
did
write
most
on
of
it.
the work in a lot
Yeah,
of the points. Yeah,
but it was about him being depressed.
yeah,
And by end of Q, he had a traumatic experience, and that's exactly the same as Anno.
yeah,
And also, well, Anno got depressed after Q, but it ended up being the same. It was the whole like synchronicity or the synchronization.
yeah. It's like I can't do
and
anything.
that's so
kind of
Eva
thing.
too at the same time. And but Shin, like people, it was like a process of him being depressed and being able to come back, and also go beyond.
Yeah,
So I was very happy with that.
yeah.
But at the same time, I felt like I was left behind.
Well, like what you were saying just now too, like that mirrors the story of this movie so much as well. It's like the movie starts off with Shinji not being able to do anything, won't respond to anybody. Like just it literally exactly the end of the third movie where Asuka has to like drag him away.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it's like the beginning of the movie is exactly that, and then there's like a turning point at some point in the movie. I don't want to give away too much of it, but there's a turning point for him, and finally he's like, okay, we gotta go. We just gotta do this.
And the thing about this movie, the great thing about this movie was that the turning point, they spend a lot of time for that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's a lot of development.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, and I was very satisfied how they took time for that. Like, if you're like, you know, if you want to create something, a movie which is like a smash hit, you want more live action, or not like action, but the character development part was very focused.
Oh yeah, absolutely. One of my favorite parts of the character development in general, and it jumps around a bit because it doesn't just focus on Shinji, Asuka, and Rei and like the people that they're with. It also focuses on the people on the Vile, and it touches on Gendo a little bit as well. But like one of the things that I thought was so cool, and at the end of Eva like 3.0 or Q, the one thing that I wanted them to do in this movie, which I got, which made me so happy, was the development of Rei in terms of her trying to discover herself. And like, granted, it didn't like really come to total fruition. I don't want to say why, but like the idea of her like questioning things and asking, like, even to the point where she's just like, I'm not Rei, who am I? Like, give me a different name kind of situation. I thought that was like a really cool development for her character, who's always been so submissive and like not really her own character for the longest
she
time.
started to search for her identity.
Yeah.
And that's what we all do, don't we?
Yeah, definitely.
And like the Estat, his Walkman.
Yeah.
Like it symbolizes his whatchamacallit, his mental health, or where he is at.
Yeah.
And when it's broken, he's broken.
Yeah.
When he throws away, he doesn't want to ride on Eva. and the Estat protects from other world,
Yeah.
which hurts him, and it's the AT field.
Mm. Yeah. I know what you're saying.
And it was also a connection between him and his dad.
Yeah.
And and you need AT field to break the AT field.
Yeah.
And towards the end, when there's like a Evangelion imaginary, and Gendo became a god, and he was trying to do the how do you say it in English?
The human instrumentality project.
Yeah. Even there, well, he was searching for his wife.
Yeah.
But the Estat, he had the AT field even
even with inside the imaginary area.
And Estat was like a very significant key.
Yeah. Well, I thought that whole part of it was really interesting as well, because Gendo's one of those characters that throughout the entire history of the series, there's never been like, I don't think, enough explanation of his character. And in this one, it's like they finally kind of went into his psyche a little bit more. Like, and the concept of Shinji having the whole thing, like, I just want to talk. Like, I just want to talk. And finally having that conversation with him to like break down those barriers.
Shinji being able to talk to his dad is like a big thing.
Yeah, that's a huge movement forward. Yeah.
And that's a big character development. And that portrayed him being more adult. So Shinji became an adult more than his dad.
Yeah, definitely. Like, his dad kind of finally was able to like realize what he had done wrong, but it's not really like a maturity thing as much as it is just like a realization of like his life in a way.
It's the way I see it is about this whole movie was about maturity.
Yeah.
And taking responsibility. Misato takes responsibility. Shinji takes responsibility for his dad and his friends, and I think that and also Ano did this. The big reason why he did this was from responsibility, I think.
Yeah.
So there was this creative aspect which he wants to do a lot of things that he likes, and he also felt responsible. So there was like a struggle between that.
Yeah.
And everything was so synchronized. It was really heavy for me.
Yeah, I could believe. I mean, like, based on the way that you describe it, it's like it was already a heavy movie to take in to begin with. Going into it with the mindset that you had going into it, obviously, it's going to like add that much more on top of it. It's like layers upon layers upon layers. So, well, it's an interesting movie to think about. There's so many things to dissect about it, and like I think like the latter half of the movie, maybe like about like 1/3 of the way in, it obviously shifts to being more Eva in tone. Like that's about the time when Shinji's like, we've got to go, and everything kind of starts moving into the more action-oriented element of it. But the very beginning of it, there's this whole like almost slice of life-ish kind of element to the setting that they're in. What did you think about that when you went into it? Because I wasn't expecting that to happen at all.
Which part?
Like when they're on like the community, basically, like when they get rescued.
The A part.
Yeah, the A part of the movie. Yeah. Like, what was your feeling on that when you saw it? Because when I saw it, like, it was just completely unexpected, and it felt so not Eva to me.
A lot of people feel that way.
Yeah.
It was more like Ghibli.
Yeah. No, I'm like, that's a really good way to describe it, actually, because it's like there's this like almost wonder to it in a way, and like the scenes are like there's obviously I think a lot of people have probably already seen it at this point, but the scene of like Ray in the rice fields, like farming and working, and her like interacting with the baby, and then like just the way that the community interacted, there was so much focus on that and not necessarily 100% focus on like specifically Ray, specifically Shinji, specifically Asuka. It didn't have that same kind of like feeling to it.
So that part, they had a lot of shot of becoming a mother or having kids.
Yeah.
And that's having and being responsible of what you gotta do, and that's a part of like a growing up part.
Yeah.
Or becoming adult.
Yeah. So that sets the stage for a lot of the rest.
And to me, like I don't think this was intentional, but the whole place was like Ghibli.
Yeah.
And the people from Ghibli, Suzuki, try to save him, save Anno from being stuck in Eva,
Yeah.
and also Hayao Miyazaki tried to help Anno to feel better from depression. Like he was not only depressed after Q, he had this traumatic I think he was kind of depressed from the get-go.
Yeah.
And so Hayao asked him to do a voiceover acting for,
for The Wind Rises.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's like a meta in a way, that like being the Ghibli environment, although he doesn't really get fixed in he actually says that, but the love around him was like was the symbolism where it became like a Ghibli-ish.
Yeah, yeah. People trying to help him and like save him in a way.
But it was weird. It was like a mashup. It was like like crossover episode.
Yeah,
almost.
seriously. I felt so like removed from the Eva universe during those segments.
And there's an Easter egg of Ghibli too there.
Oh, is there?
Yeah, like if you look at there's a library scene.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They have Totoro there.
I'll have to watch out for that.
And also his wife's Moyoko Anno's work.
Like her books.
And the book that Ray is reading is drawn by Moyoko Anno, and says Moyoko Anno.
Oh yeah, I did catch that. I did see that. Yeah.
So the Easter egg, like all the Easter eggs they have is a love from his surrounding.
Yeah.
So, and you can't, and it's kind of interesting because like Asuka's like, she's like totally depressed.
Yeah.
And Asuka's like, you're such a wuss.
Yeah. Well, she's being the way that she's known to be, I guess, like in terms of being a bully. But this time around, it's like, it feels like there's more of I don't know how to describe it, but the emotion that she gives off during it doesn't come off as though she's just picking on him. It feels like there's really like a genuine, like almost care kind of situation there.
And the crazy part, also another crazy part is like, you use like a motion capture technology for action scenes.
Yeah.
But a lot of you've seen the
I wanted to get to this. Yeah. So definitely. Yeah.
The professional, the documentary.
Yeah.
They used the motion capture, even for like something which had less action.
Yeah, like the scene of all of them at the table during dinner, right? Mm-hmm. And like they showed the part of also so this documentary, for those of you who don't know about it, it's an hour and 15 minutes long documentary about the creation of this movie, but like even more so about Hideaki Anno as a director and as a person. And like a big part of it is them doing this motion capture thing where they built sets, not like full sets, but like sets, and had people motion capturing things, just like, again, like having dinner or walking into a building with a bottle of sake or something like that. And they showed him in the editing bay looking at this motion captured footage as like the means of directing it. But it's like, because he didn't want to use storyboards is what it was.
Yeah, yes. The crazy thing is he never used storyboard for this movie, which is...
Yeah, it's insane.
Crazy.
Well, it's almost like, you say that he feels like a responsibility to the anime industry, and it's like the way that things have been working for the past 25 years, as you say, it's like almost like a machine. It's the same thing every single time. Mm-hmm. Maybe the only difference is that CG is becoming more commonplace, and this is like almost a whole new way to create anime. What's like from the ground up, really.
He really actually said it on the pamphlet, which was sold at the movie theater.
Yeah,
he said he wanted to change the whole way of how you create anime. He said it, and he just didn't use the motion capture for human being moving.
Yeah.
But he chose that to find the best angle to shoot.
Yeah.
And
he said like the angle is more important than even like how people deliver lines and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like he said, if the angle is right and the editing's right, like the characters don't even have to move.
Yeah.
So, but he used motion capture for that.
And it's crazy to think about that, though, because it almost feels like that's been in his mind since the original series, because they showed some of the sequences from the old show where it's like an overhead shot of Shinji and Misato in the apartment, and neither of them are moving. There's just dialogue in a single shot. Like it almost feels like that's been his mindset from the very beginning, but this is him like actually realizing it. like him using a camera to like actually realize that idea.
So the big struggle he had was to make sure he ends it so people feel satisfied.
Yeah.
And also, he tried to find a way to create something that goes beyond his mind.
Yeah.
And that was like a big challenge for him.
Well, it's like to the point where he rewrote several instances of the movie, right?
Yeah, he wrote like several like times, like he even rewrote it like the worst time, like
yeah, like a year before it was supposed to be finished.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Like they show him like in this documentary, they show him like stopping part A, rewriting part A, stopping part D, rewriting part D, going through the footage, constantly being like, this is boring, this isn't good, this is boring. It's actually almost like funny, like watching him do it in a way, because his reactions are just so flat, you know? So it's an interesting documentary for sure. Hopefully that comes out in English at some point too. It's NHK, so I could see them releasing it in the future.
So what Ano did was he created a new method for anime. I mean, like aside from the story, like you'll notice how creative you can be.
Yeah.
With anime creation, and show a different method. And
well, they even had shots of him too doing things where like he was filming without the motion capture, but like filming like real world locations, and like there was a lot of shots of him in places that you will see in the movie, like to the point where, you know, the movie ends at a train platform, like the final shots at a train platform, and that's from his hometown, I guess. And they show him there. They show him like with his phone filming, like at the very beginning, him like with the camera running up the stairs and doing like a single shot and like just recording the whole way to use as like a frame of reference for how they were animating stuff. And it almost seems like it's really like more like filmmaking. It doesn't seem like a traditional kind of animation style at all.
Yeah.
It's really like filmmaking.
And what makes me feel emotional is him running and Shinji running. Are the same thing.
It's like the same shot. Yeah, 1-to-1.
Ano's free from Eva. Shinji's also free from Eva and go to a different world.
Yeah.
And that shot is where he grew up.
Yeah.
In Yamaguchi Prefecture.
Yeah.
Like if you look at the movie, you like the thing about Evangelion is that it has so many mysteries and all the scripts are so mysterious.
Yeah.
But the final movie, Shin Evangelion, actually like he explained a lot of things in this script.
Yeah.
Which he never did before.
Yeah, it did seem like there was like, especially when you get to the end of it, it's like, you know, one of the things that I think a lot of fans have wondered for a long time was the whole like changing of Asuka's name. And there's like an explanation for that. There's Mari's finally officially explained, like, or at least they call back to like her backstory in the manga, which makes that like the canon explanation for who Mari is as a character.
And this is not official, but a lot of people are assuming, and I agree, and I've been feeling the same way. But Mari is Ano's wife, Ano Moyoko.
Yeah, I could definitely see that being the case, especially with the way that the movie ends off too. You know? But how all of the characters were kind of like placeholders for different things. And so, like you mentioned, Shinji and Mari, that'd be like Ano and Moyoko. And then on the opposite side of the platform, they show Kaoru and Rei, which could be seen as kind of like a placeholder for Gendo and Yui at the end of the movie.
Oh,
like
that's interesting.
Yeah, because there's a connection between the two, obviously, in different ways. But I thought that was like a really interesting way of looking at it. It's almost like, honestly, like I think what made the movie so satisfying to me is that it really did just tie everything up. Like when I walked out of it, I was sad that it was like saying goodbye to an old friend. It's done, right? It's finished. But at the same time, like I feel like he did a really good job of like explaining everything and giving every character a proper farewell, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so it was a proper farewell, and the one reason why I felt left behind and also not satisfied at the same time was because he did the right thing. He explained it.
Yeah.
The great thing about Eva is like a lot of scripts are very mysterious.
Yeah. People are still arguing about the original series 25 years later.
And
so
like there are a lot of phrases that you wouldn't understand. You always have to make assumption what it is.
Yeah.
But a lot of even in the script there were a lot of explanation what things are.
Yeah.
When there was something mysterious.
Yeah, it was very, very direct.
But left some like assumption part. But it was a lot of part like let's say like if you watch Q, like Mario would say, okay, Shinji's the Zeire's insurance.
Yeah.
What the hell is that?
Yeah.
Like, but if you look at it carefully, you'll start understanding it. But this time, it was I wouldn't like this is a reference. Let's say Mari says, "Oh, Shinji is Zeire's insurance since this is so and so and so."
Yeah.
That's what they did in Shin Evangelion.
Yeah, so that like they took you 2 steps further for everything.
So it was more groovy. It was groovier. The first 3 were a bit more groovier, especially Q. Q had a lot of groove drive.
Yeah.
But Shin Evangelion is more like I didn't feel it was groovy. I felt very it did have the drive, but it's a little more since it explained things, it wasn't as quick. But he made sure people are not left behind.
Yeah.
And that's why it ended
Well,
properly.
yeah, there were so many plot threads to tie up too. It was like what a 2.5-hour movie this time, which is longer than any of the other movies in the franchise.
Yeah, and that's very, very rare for anime production.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, costly too to put together in something like that.
What else did you think?
I don't know. Like, okay, another sequence that I thought was really cool that was in the movie that I think might end up throwing off a lot of viewers if they're not really ready for it is the sequence where was it Unit 13 and Unit 1 are fighting. It's like Gendo versus Shinji, and this is right before they have their conversation. And there's the one part where they're in the city, it's Tokyo 3, and it's all CG, and it almost doesn't look like the renders almost don't look good from like at first because it just looks like a basic 3D render.
You feel like, okay, was this being lazy?
Yeah.
But you realize something that's not the case.
Yeah, and then like a second later, it's like you're on the set of like a kaiju TV show basically, and it's like I thought that was like a really kind of I have to feel like Anno put that in there because of his love of like Ultraman, for example. Was like I want this to be like a sequence in the movie. I want to call back to the things that I love, and that whole like end sequence they keep touching on different locations from throughout the series as well. But then the one thing that really got me that I was confused by, and I'm still kind of confused by it, mostly from the perspective of like I'm sure there's a reason why they did it this way, but there's that moment where Rei and Shinji are talking and she's explaining like this is Neon Genesis, and in the background they start showing the intro for the original TV anime and scenes from the original TV anime
and the titles,
which is something that
and
the movies have never
even the new animes too.
Yeah,
the new series too.
Yeah, they flash back on that too. But this entire time, like all the movies have almost done everything they can to remove themselves from the TV anime. And so I thought that was like a really interesting touch too, for them to like kind of call back to it and be like, look, we're not forgetting about the anime. Because I think that's something like, I think fans in America, I know some people who are just like, why even make the rebuilds? And I think some fans in America probably feel like it was like purely a cash grab, or it was just Anno trying to like take control of his property, or like retcon the TV series because it wasn't something that he owned. And I don't like, especially after watching the documentary, I don't feel like that's the case at all.
Anno didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
He had to do it.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, I think that was like a cool thing for them to kind of include in there and be like, look, no, we're not forgetting that this stuff existed. It's just like this whole 4-part series, this quadrilogy exists for a different reason. And it's like to allow a man finally be at peace, you know?
Yeah, and the interesting part is like the ending is a mixture of anime
and live action, right?
And
like the final sequence of it when it's like it's so seamlessly cut too. I almost didn't even realize that it was live action for a second because they leave the train platform and then it's like a drone shot like over the city and everything.
It was actually a drone shot,
and it took me a second to realize like, oh, this isn't animated footage anymore. This is actual like. This is the city. This is actual like real life. And it was, that was another thing Simi and I talked about that I thought was like, it's interesting to think about. So there's obviously still stuff that I think people are going to be debating for years, but it's like, is that almost like acknowledging that Evangelion is like in our world? That connection to the real world in a way?
That connects to the Eva imaginary in the last scene.
Oh, okay.
And the question is, which side is real world and which side
Yeah,
is
which
not
one's not the real world?
Yeah,
Gotcha. Yeah, when we did
this is a perspective way of like Shinji's perspective and viewer's perspective.
Yeah, which like it's funny that you mentioned that too, because I did the conversation with Kakinuma and he was explaining that to me because that's something that just went over my head. I know that like that was an element of the movie, but like it's something that I just didn't even consider until he had brought that up. So it's like I hope that whoever ends up translating the movie does a good enough job of the localization that these points come across in English.
It's gonna be very tough.
Yeah, yeah.
I if this person doesn't do it right, I wouldn't criticize this person.
Yeah,
because it's very complicated.
Yeah,
a lot of nuances are hard, but I think you'll get a lot of things just by the anime itself, even you don't see it.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I can honestly say like dialogue wise, I probably only understood about like 50.
Yeah, I mean, you
50%
watched it
of
without
yeah.
any subtitles.
Yeah, without subtitles, and so, but I was still able to understand what was going on. That's why I called you the day of, because I was like, hey, wait a second, I think this is what was happening, but can you clarify this for me? And like, you kind of helped me like understand a little bit better. So, I mean, the other thing too that I want to say too is like, I know that there are probably people who are rushing to go watch it, like with whatever fan subs or whatever downloads that they find, and like, I almost want to say like, don't spoil it for yourself. Like, see it in the best quality you can.
My experience, and Kakinen was saying the same thing. You know, we had a chance to watch the 12 minutes, early 12 minutes.
Yeah,
and
on Amazon.
It's on Amazon. It's also on YouTube too.
Yeah.
Don't watch that.
Yeah.
You should watch it in the theater.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
If there's a way to watch it at the theater, this is like an anime where you should watch it in big screen.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Did you see it on an IMAX?
No, Dolby Atmos.
Okay, so Simi and I saw it on IMAX, and it was just phenomenal. It was so good.
It was a new experience.
Yeah.
I mean, it's this there has been a lot of great movies. I mean, pictures have done a lot of great work.
Yeah.
And Hayao Miyazaki did a great job. Even Akira, if you go way back, but like even there has been so many great experiences, movie theater experiences, creation. I think he went beyond.
Yeah, well, this is also like again talking about him creating like a new way to make anime. I think that comes through in this as well when you watch it in a movie theater, because you're getting like all of the different nuances of what was done. There's hand-drawn animation, there's CG animation, there's motion capture that's utilized for everything. It's like all of this stuff comes through in like a really like identifiable way when you see it in a movie theater like that.
I think he put everything what he had.
Yeah, I'm hoping like, here's hoping that whoever gets the rights to it in the US does a theatrical run for it, because you really got to see it in that kind of setting.
I totally agree.
Yeah, I also just think in general, don't watch a cam rip of it. Like, I know there are going to be people out there that are trying to do something like that. Like piracy, first of all, piracy is not okay, but like, don't spoil it for yourself. Really watch it in high definition. Try to see it in theaters. Do whatever you can to watch it like legitimately in the best quality you can watch it. Because honestly, like everything aside, you deserve it as the viewer, and as a work of art, it deserves to be seen in that kind of format.
And, I mean, realistically speaking, I don't think this like you have to be accepted in order to be at the theaters. I mean, the creation has to be accepted.
Yeah.
So it might be hard for you as industry to take it in.
It's been a little bit easier lately, because I know that like Demon Slayer got like a short theatrical run this past year, so it could try to get into the awards and stuff like that. So
it's gonna be tough.
Yeah. You're gonna probably have like maybe a week-long run to be able to, unless a major theater or major studio picks it up. You might have like a week-long run to go see it, but if that happens, like, do yourself a favor. That's all I can say.
It's worth it, and I would make a reservation for 3 days at least.
Yeah, absolutely.
You just gotta see it 3 times.
So, all that being said, like, do you have any other final thoughts in regards to maybe like Rebuild as a whole versus the original series, looking at it from the lens that you saw it? Do you have any final thoughts on like the whole of the 4 movies?
So the days when it was premiered, and I saw a lot of Twitter comments saying, "Thank you, Anno." Thank you, Anno. A lot of Twitter comments saying, "Thank you." But I would not say thank you to him. I would say congratulations.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think is more appropriate word. And it really links to the TV series where everyone's congratulating Shinji.
Yeah, the final scene.
Yeah.
I almost kind of wish that they would have done something similar in this one, like a post-credit scene would have been really good, actually.
Yeah, but it's he's redone it
Yeah,
in a most better way, and
Yeah.
it's kind of connected. Like what he did was he created something which was his mind, and he didn't explain well,
yeah,
but he didn't want to do that because it's like exposing your mind
yeah,
or your heart. But I think like Miyazaki Hayao said, Anno bleeds when he makes creation, but I think he was bleeding like hell and,
Yeah.
and exposed himself.
yeah, definitely.
He really finished it, so I'm happy for him. I'm still confused, but it was amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree. And I agree with your sentiment. I'd say too, like, congratulations, Anno. Well, congratulations, Kara, as well, because I know there were a lot of people that, watching the documentary, also had to work with him on this whole thing, and just like, they just knocked it out of the park. It deserves awards, and, you know, hopefully Anno can move on and create something new that he wants to create instead of something that he feels like he has to.
Like, just like Shinji being able to have a life other than Eva.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Well, you know, hopefully we didn't spoil too much for you in this video if you did watch all the way through it. And again, once it's available, run out and see it. It was fantastic.
I mean, I'll be honest, even you're spoiled. I think spoiler doesn't hurt.
Yeah, I also don't think that we said enough to really ruin anything about it, but there's so much. It's a dense movie. It's 2.5 hours. There's so much story to it. So I don't even think we like remotely scratched the surface.
Like the plot spoiling doesn't really. It does hurt in a way, but you might need
it. Yeah, to some degree. Yeah. But yeah, that being said, fantastic movie, and hopefully all of you get to see it soon, and hopefully you love it as much as we did. And once again, thank you, Anno, for everything.